So next, let's talk about some changes in our budget constraint. What factors would result in the budget constraint moving? And as you see over here, we can change income, we can change the price of X, and we can change the price of Y, or those prices change, and then we end up with a new budget constraint that the consumer works under. Okay? So let's start out with our original budget constraint. And what were our endpoints here? It was M divided by PX. So that's 100 divided by 10. So this endpoint was 10. And this one was M divided by PY, which is 100 divided by 2. So this one is 50. And let's look at the price of Y going up to 4. Okay? So what happens when the price of Y increases from 2 to 4 to the budget constraint? And remember, anything below inside the triangle is inside the feasible set. Okay? So what happens when the price of Y increases to 4? Well, let's go to our endpoint. If we only buy good Y, M divided by PY, 100 divided by 4, that is 25, right? And so the budget constraint rotates downward. The endpoint changes, and also what happens, what was our slope here? The slope is PX over PY, negative, right? So our slope here was 10 over 2 or minus 5. And the slope here is 10 over 4 or minus 2.5. Okay? So the slope is flatter. Now what happens, that's one shift. So if the price of Y goes up, you can buy less of good Y if you're only buying good Y. The endpoint drops down, and the feasible set also shrinks. Okay, so you go from here down to there, the feasible set shrinks. Okay. What happens about the price of X? If the price of X, let's say the price of X, instead of going up, the price of X goes down to 5. Okay, so I'll do that in orange. So if the price of X goes down, and we're back at our original price of Y, 2, this intercept does not change, but this intercept does, right? M over Px is still constant. Now we have a new M over Px is 100 over 5. Okay. And that means that this goes to 20. Okay, so we're way out there. So this one is a PX going down. Okay, again, the budget constraint is actually getting flatter. What's the slope? Minus PX over PY. 5 over 2 minus 2.5 again. The slope is actually the same in those two cases, but the feasible set is much larger here, right? So again, if you're only buying good X, and X becomes cheaper, instead of buying 10 units of good X, you can buy 20 units of good X in this example. So let's look at the change in income now. So start out with our original M over Px, or M over Py, sorry, and M over Px. and 100 divided by 10, and 100 divided by 2. And this is our feasible set, anything down here. Now, the last change let's look at. What happens when income changes? And let's say that income now goes to $200 instead of $100. So on this graph, do these endpoints change and does the slope change? That's the key question. So the endpoints certainly do change. We have 200 divided by 10. So if we're only buying good X, we could now buy 20 units of good X. And if we're only buying good Y, we could now buy, instead of 50, we could buy 100. 200 divided by 2 is 100 units. And right there is my top of my screen, so 200 divided by 2, and this is 200 divided by 10. Okay? And so the shift here. Now, drawn to scale, those two lines are parallel. Why are those two lines parallel? What's the slope of this line? Minus px over py, minus 10 over 2, minus 5. And in this line, the only thing that changed between these two is income. So it's the same, minus px over py is still minus 5. So in this case, the relative prices, px over py, do not change, but the feasible set increases. So with a change in income, there's only an increase in the feasible set. There's not a change in the relative prices.